My name is Lydia Quinn, and I learned two things the hard way by age 27. First, San Francisco is always windy when you need it to be quiet. Second, nothing howls louder than a stolen byline. I lived on the fifth floor of a rent-controlled shoebox that smelled like coffee and book dust. From my window, Market Street glittered like a string of cheap sequins at dusk. Uber horns. The BART's metallic sigh. The city never stopped exhaling. I didn't mind. Noise felt like proof that truth was somewhere out there, restless, waiting to be caught. By day, by night, by weekends, by whatever hours existed between those I worked as an investigative journalist for The Beacon, one of those scrappy but influential outlets that rich men liked to donate to so they could feel absolved at dinner parties. The Beacon wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. At least, I thought it was. The story fell into my lap in February, when the fog was low and everything tasted like salt. An anonymous tip about a nonprofit that was supposed to mentor underprivileged coders in Bayview, but that somehow spent more money on catered boards meetings in Napa than on laptops for kids. I dug. I slept with my phone on my face like a cat, and woke up with spreadsheets imprinted on my cheek. I followed money that behaved like a magician's scarf, bright, endless, trying to distract you, while the real trick happened offstage. There were shell organizations, friendly invoices, donors with their names trimmed to initials and optimism. I kept my notes in a riot of color-coded folders. Blue for financials, yellow for interviews, red for legal flags. The red folder was thick. My editor was a man named Bryce. Tall, hasty, fond of hugging the doorway as if it were a microphone. "We need punch," he'd say, slapping the edge of my desk like it was a drum. "Make it sizzle, Quinn." He called everyone by their last name, like we were in a locker room and he'd forgotten we use words for work. Still, he liked my tenacity. Or pretended to. He liked my ability to get people to talk. I don't know how to explain that talent without sounding manipulative. It isn't. It's listening so hard you almost disappear. It's making silence comfortable, letting answers find the runway instead of yanking them down from the clouds. People told me things. People like Maya, who ran the after-school program that never received the laptops. People like Omar, a quiet accountant with an unquiet conscience, who forwarded me a spreadsheet at 2 in the morning and asked if it was normal for a mentorship nonprofit to spend $18,000 on executive wellness. "Maybe they're mentoring their chakras," I texted back. He didn't laugh. We met at a dingy cafe where the floor squeaked and the espresso machine coughed like a cigarette smoker trying to quit. He slid a manila envelope across the table, eyes on his coffee. Inside, printouts, handwritten notes, and a sticky note that said in neat block letters, "They think no one reads footnotes." He was right. But I read everything. The story crystallized like frost on glass. Every promised laptop that never arrived. Every donor email boasting community impact. Every catered Napa lunch with a view that would make guilt look pretty. I wrote the lead like a punch to the throat. The program promised code. What it delivered, mostly, was caviar. I was proud of that line. Not because it was clever. Because it was true. I filed the draft at 1:12 a.m. on a Wednesday, eyes sandy, fingers aching, the city flickering below like a stubborn heartbeat. Then I slept for 11 minutes, woke up in a panic, and filed 3 more documents, interview transcripts, photo captions, and a spreadsheet of corrections. Bryce responded at 8:06 a.m. "Got it. We'll take a pass. Great work, Quinn. This is big." I felt that balloon of exhilaration rise in my chest, the kind that's half helium, half terror. This is what I lived for, not the accolades. The moment before you hit publish, and truth breathes in your face like a wild animal. That day, I kept my phone face up on my desk like an altar. By noon, Draft 2 appeared in my inbox. He'd smoothed my sentences until they sounded like they were wearing a tie. He cut the caviar line. I put it back. We ping-ponged. We negotiated. We shaped. At 5, he called me into his office for a quick regroup. His glass walls made the newsroom feel like a fishbowl. People swam past with laptops, coffee, Purpose. I'm proud of you, he said, smiling so hard his teeth looked expensive. This is the kind of peace that moves the needle. Thank you, I said. It's ready. He steepled his fingers, which is how certain men ward off accountability. Almost. I want to massage a few things for narrative momentum. Also, legal wants a calmer verb in paragraph 6. Which verb? Defrauded. What do they suggest? He glanced at his monitor. Misallocated. I laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. Bryce, I said, softer. They defrauded donors, and they neglected the kids. I know. He spread his hands. Trust me, I'll handle it. Anyway, why don't you log off, go home, take a breath. You've been living and dying with this thing. Let me do the boring editor stuff. I didn't want to, but I also hadn't eaten anything that wasn't an almond in 36 hours. I left. The wind on Market Street felt like it was trying to blow me backward. I fought it like a cartoon character, and got tacos from a place that forgave all sins with cilantro. Sometime around 9, my phone buzzed with a company-wide email. All staff at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Big announcement. When I returned to my apartment, the city had sharpened into neon. I showered until my bones warmed, pulled on sweats, and sat cross-legged on the floor with my laptop. I'm not sure why I opened the CMS, the content management system, out of habit, curiosity, paranoia. The draft was gone. Not deleted. Not archived. Not versioned. Gone. A new draft had replaced it, authored by B. Halper. That was Bryce. My mouse hovered. He'd changed the lead. He'd softened the verbs. He'd also added a paragraph I didn't recognize, an assertion about a donor's personal relationship with the nonprofit's director, sourced to an unnamed former board member. We never had that source. My chest chilled. I scrolled faster. Phrasing I recognized like my own handwriting. Turns of phrase you don't notice you own until you see them wearing someone else's shoes. My interviews, my path, my map, his byline. I took a screenshot because there is power in receipts, then another because there is power in redundancy. At 9:37 p.m., I texted Bryce. What happened to my draft? No response. At 9:42, I tried again. CMS shows your name. Did you add a source I don't have? The 3 dots appeared, flirted, vanished. At 9:50 he finally wrote. All good. Just cleaning. Go to sleep. Big day tomorrow. The wind at my window howled, as if San Francisco could read my phone. Sleep did not arrive. At 2:13 a.m., I got an encrypted message from Omar. Saw the preprint. They softened it. Also, the last paragraph could expose me. Did you change the attribution? My hands shook. I hadn't changed anything. Without thinking, I opened my notes. Then my drafts, the ones I kept in a private folder, offline, because you never know. I read my sentences, and then I read his again. The differences weren't just editorial. They were surgical. The parts that anchored compliance to accountability had been loosened, names fuzzed, dates blurred. And then there was his new paragraph, the one with the phantom former board member. It was specific enough to burn someone, and vague enough to make it impossible to defend in court. I typed and deleted a dozen messages that were not helpful, were not professional, were mostly versions of, how dare you. At 3:01 a.m., I wrote one that was, legal risk in your last paragraph. Also, you cannot put your name on reporting you didn't do. Please revert to my version and my byline. Otherwise I go to HR. He responded with an emoji. A thumbs up. As if we were planning a picnic. I closed my laptop, opened it, closed it again. I paced my apartment until the floor creaked like an old ship. I thought about Omar's shaky hands and Maya's steady voice, and the kids who had been promised laptops, whose names I couldn't write, whose faces swam in my head anyway. I thought about my rent, my profession, the thin ice that women walk on when we demand credit instead of gratitude. I thought about truth, and who gets to carry it across the line. At 7:58 a.m., the newsroom filled like a stadium, people with coffees, HR in blazers, the air press of nerves. 10 a.m. sharp, the all-staff began. Bryce stood at the front, smiling, hands in his pockets like the world was casual. The publisher beside him like a shiny trophy. "We have a promotion to announce," she said, voice bright. "A testament to leadership and editorial excellence." I felt my stomach go still. "Effective today," she continued, "we're proud to name Bryce Halper as managing editor. His investigative vision has elevated the Beacon and will continue to guide us." Applause. I clapped once, because my hands had forgotten how to be hands. Bryce took the mic. "Thank you," he said, scanning the room like a king, choosing who to knight. "And I'm thrilled to share we're dropping a major exposé at noon that I've been spearheading." My hearing tunneled. Noon. Spearheading. My phone buzzed against my thigh like a trapped wasp. A push alert from our own app. New. Exposé inside the Bay's broken mentorship machine. I opened it with a thumb that felt foreign. The lead was my skeleton wearing someone else's skin. The last paragraph, his new paragraph, sat there like a lit match near a puddle. And then I saw it. A small caption under a photo of the nonprofit's director, smiling at a gala. Reporting by B. Halper. I didn't see the rest. My heartbeat was loud enough to make the room wobble. I was on my feet before I knew I'd stood. I walked out, past desks and plants and people who suddenly looked made of cardboard, down the hall, past Bryce's glass fishbowl, and HR's nervous smiles, into the stairwell that smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. On the third step down, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered, breath thin. A voice I recognized but couldn't place said, low and fast, "If you publish your drafts, Lydia, you will regret it." I stopped moving. "Who is this?" I whispered. The line clicked. Silence. For a long second, I stared at my reflection in the small window of the stairwell door. My face looked older. My eyes, furious. I wiped them with the heel of my hand, unlocked the door to the street, and felt the wind hit me so hard it felt like a shove. Noon was 40 minutes away. My byline had been stolen. My source might get burned. And someone, somewhere, knew I was already thinking what they were afraid I'd do next. I didn't cry in the stairwell. I hated that I wanted to. Instead, I counted breaths and texted the only person who'd tell me the truth without pity. "Priya, you at your desk?" She was our data editor, quiet until she wasn't, with a ponytail that meant business, and a laugh like a bell you heard down a hall. "Come now," she replied. I pushed back into the newsroom like a swimmer breaking the surface. Priya's station was a fortress of monitors and sticky notes that said things like, "Check methodology," or "Die." She looked up, took one glance at my face, and rolled her chair back to make room. "Okay," she said softly. "Tell me." I told her. And then I showed her screenshots, timestamps, the phantom paragraph. My hands shook so badly I had to set the phone on her desk. Priya didn't touch me. She touched the evidence. She opened the Beacon's staging site and compared the live story to the last draft I'd sent her a week ago so she could stress test the numbers. She said. "The sound you make when a puzzle clicks." "Can you see who changed the CMS?" I asked. She hesitated. "Only IT can see the back-end logs." But? She reached to her bottom drawer and pulled out an orange stress ball shaped like a tangerine. "Squeeze this or you'll break your jaw." I hadn't realized I was clenching it. She typed fast, fingers skimming. "I can't see usernames," she said, "but I can see IPs that pushed the last draft to publish. One is Bryce's laptop, the other is a remote IP I don't recognize. Not in our range." "You're not supposed to see that," I said. "I'm not supposed to see a lot of things," she said, without looking up. "You didn't hear it from me." I squeezed the tangerine so hard its face wrinkled. My phone buzzed again. "Omar, they published. My boss just called me in. He says board is concerned I spoke to media. I could get fired." "Don't meet them alone," I wrote. "Ask to schedule. Buy time." His dots hovered, then disappeared. "Bryce is looking for you," Priya said quietly, eyes on a Slack ping she wasn't showing me. "Of course he is." We both looked up as the room shifted. The new managing editor walked through the aisles with his promotion smile and a paper cup that announced he was very normal, very busy, very in charge. Quinn, he said, like a coach calling a player off the bench. Got a minute? No, I said. He blinked. Priya coughed into her tangerine. Bryce did his teeth thing. Let's be professionals, okay? Legal just wants to ensure our reporting is bulletproof. Then why did you add a paragraph sourced to a ghost? I asked. He gestured toward his office. Not here. Then not anywhere, I said, and felt the room go hush. He tilted his head. You want to torpedo your career over a byline? My mouth moved before my fear could catch it. No, over the truth. A muscle jumped in his cheek. HR wants a quick check-in, he said finally. Now, I bet they do. I followed him because that's what you do when the game is rigged. You keep walking and you collect cards. HR's conference room smelled like neutrality and printer ink. Two people I'd seen at holiday parties looked at me like a wildlife rescue looks at a hawk. Lydia, one said. We've received a concerning allegation that you've been saving proprietary drafts off-site. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You mean my work? We're a collaborative newsroom, the other said. Drafts are company property. And bylines? I asked. Are those communal too? They glanced at each other, like I'd used a word from a dead language. Bryce sat, legs crossed, radiating patience. Look, he said. No one's attacking you. This is about alignment. The piece needed authoritative framing. I provided it. As managing editor, that's my role. To put your name on my interviews? I said. My name is there to protect the story, he said smoothly. It gives it weight. Priya's warning about my jaw came back to me like a life preserver. I unclenched. Okay, I said. Then we can align on something else. The nonprofit's lawyers are sloppy. That last paragraph is a defamation grenade, and our source protections are a sieve. When this blows, it won't be my name on it. Thank you for watching, and it pay crew self too. They didn't flinch, but they shifted. A whisper of discomfort. HR Lady 1 cleared her throat. We'd like you to take a few days, use some PTO, reset. A suspension in vacation clothing. Fine, I said. I stood too fast, and the room wobbled. Bryce stood slower, and held the door like a gentleman in a noir movie. You're talented, Quinn, he said. Don't waste it. I walked out and didn't stop until the elevator opened like a mouth, and I stepped into it and watched the doors close on a newsroom that had just misnamed theft as mentorship. The street hit me like a wave. I didn't go home. I went to Inkwell, a co-working space a friend let me use when I needed quiet that wasn't sad. Plants everywhere. Brewers' blackbirds tapping at the window like they had notes. I set up at a corner table, opened my battered laptop, and started to build the only thing that had ever saved me. A timeline. One tab, my full draft, intact. Second, audio of every interview, transcribed and time-stamped. Third, scans of receipts Omar had given me. Fourth, screenshots of the Beacon's preprint with Bryce's name. I built a folder called Transparency Packet. Inside it, subfolders called Source Audio, Documents, Memos to Legal, Edits he made. It wasn't just for me. It was for anyone who would ask, later, how can we trust you? I crafted a statement in plain language. Not rage, not flourish, just facts and an apology to the kids who would have to watch adults jostle for moral credit while they waited for laptops. I created a new newsletter, because yes, of course, I had daydreamed a life where I wasn't always waiting for someone else to hit publish. I named it Footnotes, because I like the parts that hide. I scheduled a post for 12:05 p.m., 5 minutes after the Beacon's exposé. I attached the packet. I wrote, here's what I reported. Here is what was changed. Here is why it matters. Before I hit schedule, I called Maya. She answered mid-footsteps, breath short. Everyone's sending me your story, she said. Except it doesn't sound like you. It's not, I said. I'm about to say that publicly. You should know. You may get calls. I already have, she said. A PR woman told me I'd derail progress if I spoke out. Progress. The only things progressing around here are the mold and the waiting list. I'm sorry, I said. For what's coming. For everything. We're fine, she said, Voice steel. Do what you need to do. Tell the truth. I hung up and cried, hard and fast, face in my sleeve, then wiped it away because there was work. As I compiled, a new email popped up from a burner I didn't recognize. Subject: You're not the only one they underestimated. Body: I'm the former board member Bryce invented. He took a call from the nonprofit's crisis firm last week. Check the attachments. Don't trust your office Wi-Fi. F. There were 3 PDFs, wire transfers, a contract, a spreadsheet screenshot with the name of Bryce's LLC blacked out, badly. I zoomed in until the pixels looked like Lego bricks. Halper Strategies, LLC. My stomach dropped through the floor. He hadn't just stolen my byline, he'd sold the airbags. My cursor hovered over the attachments and sweat slicked my fingers. I looked around the airy co-working space and felt suddenly visible. The note had said not to trust office Wi-Fi. I unplugged from their network, tethered to my phone, and started downloading. My laptop stuttered, then blinked. The screen went black for a second. When it came back, a pop-up asked for my admin password. Nope. I shut the lid, heart sprinting, and pulled the battery old machine, old tricks, and waited until the panic in my hands slowed enough to rebuild. When I booted up again, I opened a terminal and looked for recent processes that smelled like intruders. There it was. A remote session attempt, origin IP within a block that matched the one Priya didn't recognize. They were already in my house. I uploaded the PDFs to a secure cloud with a name no one would think to guess and shared it with exactly 2 people, Priya and a lawyer I'd met at a panel who handed me a card and said, "If anyone ever tries to scare you, call me." Her name was Cora Ansell. She specialized in media law and had eyes like a storm. Before I could overthink it, I scheduled the footnotes post. 5 p.m. I sat very still. The city kept moving. At 11:58, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, because that's where brave people live. At 12:01, Omar texted. They fired me. It felt like a blow, and it was. We will make this right, I typed, fingers furious. I'm so sorry, don't sign anything. At 12:05, the notification hit my own screen. Footnotes. The truth behind the beacon's exposé. The link glowed like a fuse. I tapped it. The page opened. My statement sat there. Steady. The receipts were live. The audio files queued with a soft bar that hinted at a voice about to speak. My throat ached. In the corner of the page, a live view counter ticked up. 10, 70, 200, 1200. My email exploded. Journalists I admired. Strangers. Threats. The nonprofit's PR firm. The Beacon's publisher. Bryce. His text was short. Take it down. I stared at it while the counter climbed. Then a second text came. This one, a screenshot of a draft lawsuit. My name in bold. The words, breach of contract, shouting. I felt the fear arrive like fog. Heavy. Cold. I scrolled, breath jagged, and that's when I saw the last attachment from the burner, still unopened. A short audio clip. I pressed play. Bryce's voice, unmistakable, saying, "We can soften her peace. You want it calmer, it gets calmer. But I keep the byline. That's the deal." Another male voice answered. Smooth, with money. Done. The clip ended. My screen reflected my face back at me, pale and furious, and suddenly, very sure. I hit forward and sent the clip to Cora. My phone vibrated again. Priya. Lydia, IT, is walking to your desk with a box. I swallowed hard. Okay, I typed. Let them. I looked at the clock. 12:09. Something thumped against the glass wall of Inkwell. I turned. A man in a blazer I recognized from the nonprofit's gala photo stood outside, phone to his ear, eyes on me. How did he find me? The door to the co-working space opened with a soft chime. He stepped inside, smile too bright, like a car with its high beams on. "Miss Quinn?" he called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We need to talk, now." The co-working space went silent. Everyone's fingers froze above keyboards, coffee cups halfway to lips. Even the blackbirds at the window stopped pecking, as if the world had paused to watch me drown. The man in the blazer strode toward me with the confidence of someone who expected doors to open. Gray suit, white shirt, no tie. His shoes shined like weapons. "Miss Quinn," he said again, smile still welded on. "You've caused quite a stir." My stomach nodded. "Do I know you?" I asked, voice steady even though my pulse wasn't. He held up a business card between two fingers. Keller and Price Strategic Solutions. That was PR speak for crisis management. The same firm I'd seen buried in those PDFs. "I represent several stakeholders in the matter you've written about," he said smoothly. "We'd like a word. Privately." I laughed once, sharp. "I'm not sure private is your strong suit." A couple of freelancers at nearby tables smirked into their mugs, but the air was tight with curiosity. Everyone was watching. Everyone was listening. His smile thinned. "You've published information that was taken out of context. Sensitive material. Dangerous if misinterpreted." "You mean true," I said. He tilted his head. "Let's not get semantic." He leaned in, lowering his voice but keeping that fake warmth, like he was selling me a vacation. "Take down the post, Miss Quinn. It's the easiest way. For everyone." I folded my arms. His eyes hardened. "Then you'll wish you had." Something in his tone, calm, casual, as if this was already decided, sent a chill crawling up my spine. I opened my mouth to respond, but my phone buzzed on the table. A call. From Priya. I answered on speaker. "Lydia," she said, voice urgent. "They're scrubbing your access. Email, Slack, Drive, everything. They just revoked your credentials." I glanced at Mr. Blazer. He was still smiling. "Appreciate the update, Priya," I said loudly enough for him to hear. "Guess I'll be moving my work elsewhere." The freelancers perked up, eyes darting between us like it was free theater. The Blazer man straightened. "This doesn't have to be ugly. We can arrange a settlement. Quiet. Clean. But if you keep pushing..." He didn't finish, because I stood up. "Gentlemen in blazers," I said, loud and clear, "usually don't scare me. But here's the thing: you should never threaten someone who keeps receipts." Gasps and a low whistle floated from a corner desk. His face tightened for the first time. But before he could respond, my phone pinged. A new email. From Cora, the lawyer. Subject line: "Saw your packet. Do not take it down." I tucked my phone into my pocket, grabbed my bag, and walked straight past him toward the door. "Miss Quinn," he called. I turned, just once. "You might want to tell your clients," I said, "that threatening a journalist is the fastest way to ensure the whole damn world hears their name." The co-working space erupted in whispers as I pushed through the door and out into the blinding daylight. The city felt sharper than usual. Every corner looked like a camera. Every face like a watcher. I kept walking until my lungs hurt, until the streets blurred into one another, until I found myself at the Embarcadero, the bay stretched out like a sheet of hammered glass. My phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, texts, DMs, half support, half threats. Then one message cut through everything. From an anonymous email: "You think Bryce is your problem? He's not. He's just the opening act." Attached was a photo. Me, that morning, leaving the Beacon, taken from across the street. My breath caught. Someone had been watching. I called Cora. She picked up on the second ring. "You're in deeper than a byline theft," she said, no greeting. "I've seen this before. When there's money, contracts, outside firms, it stops being about journalism and starts being about liability. You've kicked a hornet's nest." "So what do?" I asked, voice smaller than I wanted. "First, stay visible. Don't let them corner you. Second, find the money. You said you had wire transfers?" "Yes, from the burner email," said he, seen and for the take with a simile breast. "The ding in the most for the wise, which proveness is very, way and turn of the commonest. Then you've got leverage. Use it. Expose the flow, not just the faces." "But Lydia..." She paused, heavy. "They will come for you harder. Decide now if you're willing to go all the way." The waves slapped against the pier, all the way. I thought of Omar, already fired. Of Maya, holding an after-school program together with tape and grit. Of the kids waiting for laptops that would never come. Of Bryce, smiling in his new office, with my words under his name. I clenched my phone. Yes, I said. I'm willing. Then let's move, Cora said. She gave me an address. A quiet law office across town where she could meet me in person, off the grid. I headed that way, nerves buzzing like live wires, but halfway there, as I crossed under the shadow of the Bay Bridge, my phone buzzed again. A message from Omar. They're at my apartment. 2 men. They know about the envelope. My chest seized. Before I could type, another message. If I don't answer in 10 minutes, it's because they took me. I froze on the sidewalk, traffic roaring behind me, seagulls screaming overhead. They weren't just trying to silence me. They were going after my sources. And Omar. Omar might already be gone. I started running. Not toward Cora's office anymore, toward the BART, toward Omar. My lungs burned, my legs threatened mutiny, but adrenaline turned the city into a blur of concrete and noise. As the train lurched beneath me, I typed furiously. Where are you? I'm on my way. No response. Another. Don't open the door. Stall them, please. Still nothing. I gripped the cold rail so hard my knuckles ached. My reflection in the BART window looked wild, haunted. Not like a journalist, but like a fugitive from my own life. When the train screeched into a stop, I bolted up the stairs 2 at a time. Omar's apartment was only 3 blocks away, in one of those weathered complexes with peeling paint and buzzing lights that always smelled faintly of curry and laundry soap. The stairwell door slammed somewhere above me. My chest tightened. When I reached his floor, the hallway was empty, but his door was cracked open. My heart plummeted. I pushed it wider. Omar? The air inside was wrong. Still, heavy. His living room was a storm, papers everywhere, drawers pulled out, laptop gone. The manila envelope he'd given me weeks ago was missing from the desk. Omar! I called again, voice breaking. No answer. But then a sound. Faint. From the bathroom. I rushed in and found him on the floor, tied to the radiator with zip ties, a cut across his temple where blood had dried to rust. His eyes were wide, but when he saw me, relief cracked across his face. Oh my God, I whispered, dropping to my knees. I pulled at the ties until my fingers went raw, then used a butter knife from his kitchen to slice through the plastic. His wrists were red, chafed. They took it, he croaked. His voice was shredded. The envelope. Everything. They knew exactly where it was. Who? I asked. 2 guys. Suits. Not cops, they said. His words broke into a cough. They said if I didn't hand it over, they'd make me regret ever talking to you. My stomach clenched. Did they hurt you worse? He shook his head. Not yet. But they know my name now. My job's gone. My apartment's compromised. I don't know what to do. I pressed my hand to his shoulder, steadying him as much as myself. You stay with me tonight. We'll figure it out. He grabbed my wrist, desperate. Lydia, you don't understand. These people aren't just protecting a non-profit. There's more. The wires I saw where the money went. It wasn't just slush, it was laundering. The word dropped like a stone in water. Laundering? I whispered. He nodded, eyes dark. Shells, back channels, overseas accounts. And the non-profit was the front. But that LLC Halper's company, it wasn't just consulting. He was the middleman. My stomach twisted. Bryce wasn't just stealing my story for glory, he was cashing in on it. Before I could respond, Omar's phone buzzed on the floor. An unknown number. The preview line chilled me. We know she's with you. I snatched it up, heart hammering, and turned it off. Omar, pack a bag. Now. By the time we left, dusk had soaked the streets in gold and shadow. I half expected another suit waiting in the parking lot, but the cars sat quiet, dust glowing in the last light. We moved fast. Back at my apartment, I made him tea, he didn't drink, and set up my couch with spare blankets. He sat stiffly, as if resting would make him vulnerable. Meanwhile, I opened my laptop and stared at the folder, the transparency packet. the only proof left untouched. And the PDFs from the burner. I opened one. The contract. It was worse than I thought. Bryce hadn't just consulted with the nonprofit, he'd signed a retainer with Keller and Price, the crisis firm. They were paying him for narrative management, which meant he hadn't just stolen my story. He'd sold the edited version of it. Watered down, neutered, repackaged into a press shield for the very people I was exposing. I slammed the laptop shut, bile in my throat. Omar looked up. What now? What now? I thought of the man in the blazer at Inkwell, the photo someone took of me on Market Street. The email warning me Bryce was only the beginning. I thought of the story, the real story, that no one had seen yet. Not the stolen byline, not the watered-down exposé, but the one beneath it. The money, the laundering, the conspiracy. I swallowed hard. We go bigger, I said. We take this past the beacon, past Bryce, straight to the industry. If they want to silence us, we make ourselves impossible to ignore. Omar's eyes widened. You mean publish everything? Yes, but if you do that, they'll come after you harder. They already are, I said. So I won't just publish it, I'll do it where they can't erase me. I opened my phone, thumb hovering over an app I'd installed years ago but never used. A platform for whistleblowers, one that locked archives to the blockchain. Uneditable. Permanent. Once it was up, no one, not Bryce, not the nonprofit, not Keller and Price could bury it. My finger trembled, but before I pressed it, Omar grabbed my wrist. Wait. If you do this, you need more than proof. You need allies. Or, you'll be crushed before anyone believes you. He was right. I thought of Priya, of Cora, of every journalist who'd ever reached out after seeing my post. I had names, numbers, people who cared about truth, not just profit. I'll make allies, I whispered. I pressed the button. The app opened with a soft chime, ready to upload. But then 3 sharp knocks rattled my front door. Both of us froze. Another knock, louder, then a voice. Smooth. Familiar. Lydia, it's Bryce, let me in. Omar's eyes went wide. Bryce's voice slid under the door like smoke. Calm. Confident. The voice of someone who believed he owned the room before stepping inside. Lydia, he said again, rapping twice on the frame. We should talk. No lawyers, no noise, just us. Omar's eyes darted to mine. His face was pale, a sheen of sweat catching the lamplight. I mouthed, "Don't move." He nodded, clutching the blanket around his shoulders like armor. I stood slowly, heart pounding against my ribs, and approached the door. Every step felt like walking into a trap. I pressed my palm flat against the wood, like I could feel his heartbeat on the other side. What do you want, Bryce? I asked, steady but sharp. I want to clear the air, he said, his tone almost friendly. You've had a rough couple days. You're upset, I get it. But you're in over your head. This thing you're doing, it won't end well for you. Or your source. Omar flinched at the word. I put a hand out to keep him silent. Funny, I said. You didn't care about my source when you stole my story. Stole? He laughed, low. You wouldn't have gotten it published without me. I polished it, I protected it, I made it viable. You're welcome. I clenched my teeth. You also invented a fake board member and took a check from the very people we were exposing. That doesn't look like protection, that looks like fraud. Silence on the other side, just his breath, slow and measured. Then, you've been busy. My pulse spiked. He knew I had the documents. Maybe even knew I'd tried to upload. He knocked once more, harder this time. Let me in, Lydia. We can handle this quietly. Or you can keep playing whistleblower and watch your entire career evaporate. I backed away from the door. If my career burns, I'll light the match myself. Omar whispered. He won't just leave. And he didn't. The doorknob jiggled, slow at first, then sharper. A rattle. The scrape of metal like he was trying a key. Omar's face drained. How does he? I shook my head. I didn't want to know. I darted to my laptop, yanked it open, and restarted the upload to the whistleblower platform. The progress bar crawled forward, like it knew what was at stake. 30%. The door rattled again, harder. Lydia! His voice cracked into anger now. This is your last chance. 50%. Omar was pacing, running his hands through his hair. What if he gets in? 70%. I met his eyes. Then we make sure it's too late for him to stop us. The knob stopped rattling. Silence. I held my breath. Then bang. A heavy hit against the door that shook the frame. Omar jumped back. Another bang. The progress bar ticked to 92%. And then, silence again. We waited. 1 beat. 2. The hallway outside was still. I crept to the peephole, heart in my throat. Empty. He was gone. Or, pretending to be. I exhaled shakily and returned to the laptop just as the upload hit 100%. The screen blinked. File archived. Immutable. Shareable. It was done. Relief surged through me, but it was thin, fragile. Because I knew this wasn't the end, this was the start. Bryce had realized I wasn't bluffing, and people like him, with their money and their connections, didn't just give up. My phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. Nice upload. Pity it won't matter when the right people discredit you. Attached was a screenshot of me, grainy, leaving Omar's apartment earlier. Omar's face went white. They're watching us. I felt the room tilt, the walls pressing in. Whoever they weren't just watching, they were inside the system. Maybe outside the building, maybe right now in the street below. Another knock jolted us both. Not heavy, not angry. A soft, polite knock. I froze. Who is it? I called. A pause. Then a woman's voice. Low, clear. Lydia Quinn? This is Special Agent Ramirez with the FBI. We need to speak with you. Immediately. Omar's mouth fell open. The FBI? I stared at the door. Were they here to protect me? Or to shut me down? I didn't move. The polite knock came again. Miss Quinn? The voice repeated. We're not here to arrest you. We're here because of your upload. Omar stared at me, his lips barely moving. FBI? I don't know, I whispered back. Another knock. You're in danger. We can protect you if you open the door. That word protect landed like a stone. It was the same word Bryce used in his office, in HR's mouths, in the Blazerman's. Everyone wanted to protect me, into silence. I pressed my eye to the peephole. A woman in her 30s stood there, black blazer, dark hair in a bun, badge out. The badge looked real. Her eyes scanned the hallway, alert, not fake smiling. Behind her, a man stood, another badge, plain suit, scanning the stairwell. Could be fake, Omar hissed. I thought for a second. Then I called through the door. What's the code word? Silence. Then, what code word? I smirked bitterly. Good answer. Real agents wouldn't have one. I unlatched the deadbolt but kept the chain on, opening the door an inch. Prove it. She slid a sealed envelope through the gap. Inside, a subpoena with my name on it, plus a formal notice about financial crimes under investigation, United States v. Bay, Future Mentorship Foundation, et al. My breath caught. This was real. We're not after you, she said quietly. We're after them, but your upload just triggered our case. It's evidence now. I glanced back at Omar. His hands trembled. Can you protect him? I asked. That's why we're here, she said. But you need to come with us. Right now, both of you. Everything in me screamed not to trust them. But staying put wasn't an option. Bryce had already found my address. His suits had already taken Omar's apartment, and now the upload had painted a target on both of us. I nodded once. Give me a minute. I grabbed my laptop, my hard drives, and a hoodie. Omar stuffed what little he'd brought into his backpack. We stepped out into the hall, flanked by the 2 agents, who moved like people who expected ambushes. Downstairs, a black SUV idled by the curb. The woman Ramirez kept her eyes on the windows. Get in. As the door shut behind us, I felt like I was crossing a line I couldn't return from. The ride was silent at first. The male agent drove. Ramirez sat beside me, tablet on her lap. Finally, she said. We've been tracking money moving through that nonprofit for 2 years. Shells, foreign accounts, political action groups. Your editor wasn't just a middleman, he was part of a laundering chain for campaign funds. I blinked. Campaign funds? For who? She gave a small, grim smile. That's classified for now, but your upload gave us enough to freeze accounts. That's why we moved on you tonight. If they think you're cooperating, they'll panic. Omar slumped against the window. They already panicked. Ramirez looked at him. You're safe now. We'll put you under witness protection if needed. I turned to her. And me? You're a journalist. You've got First Amendment protections, but only if you stay alive. These are not people who sue first. Her eyes flicked to me. Steady. We're moving fast, but you need to testify. I swallowed. I will. Outside, the city blurred into bridges and highways. Inside, my heart was a drum. We turned off into a side street near the federal building. Ramirez's tablet buzzed. She read the screen, face tightening. They're already pushing back, she muttered. Media blitz, discredit campaigns. Someone leaked your personnel file. I grimaced. That didn't take long. Stay calm, she said. By the time they're done spinning, we'll have warrants. As we rolled into the underground garage, a wave of fatigue hit me, the kind that comes after days of adrenaline. But under it, a flicker of resolve burned. They'd stolen my byline. They'd threatened my source. They'd tried to erase me. And now, they'd woken up the FBI. Inside the federal building, they led us to a plain interview room. Clean, bright, 2 bottles of water. We're moving on the nonprofit's accounts at dawn, Ramirez said. You'll both give sworn statements. And Lydia, if you have anything else you haven't published, now's the time. I reached into my bag and slid her a flash drive. She took it, eyes flicking with something like respect. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and swore under her breath. What? I asked. Your editor just went on TV. He's saying you fabricated your reporting and blackmailed him for credit. I laughed sharp, bitter. Of course he did. Ramirez stood. Don't worry, by sunrise, his tune will change. But part of me knew it wouldn't be that easy. People like Bryce don't go down cleanly. They drag everyone through the mud first. And sure enough, my phone temporarily back in my hand buzzed with a push alert from a major news site. Breaking. Investigative journalist accused of extortion in nonprofit scandal. A photo of me leaving my apartment. The headline burned into my vision. Omar muttered. They're painting you as the villain. I sat back in the chair, teeth gritted. Sunlight leaked through the blinds when Ramirez walked back in, her face sharper than before. We've made arrests, she said. The nonprofit's director. 2 accountants. Keller and Price execs. We're still looking for Bryce. Looking? I said. He ran, she replied. His office is empty, his phone's off, but we'll find him. I stared at the table. He's too smart to leave a trail. Ramirez smirked faintly. Everyone leaves a trail. You should know that. 2 days later, I was in a hotel under an alias, scrolling through headlines on my phone. My upload had gone viral. Journalists from across the country were digging through the files I'd posted. A major magazine called my work the most important independent exposé of the year. But every piece had to include Bryce's smear campaign, his TV interviews, his claims that I'd gone rogue. I scrolled past it, my chest heavy. Then an alert popped up. Breaking. Former Beacon editor, arrested in money laundering probe. My hands shook as I opened it. A photo of Bryce, hair mussed, hands cuffed, being led out of a rental car near the airport. I exhaled, long and slow. Omar stepped into the room, coffee in hand. They got him? They got him, I said, and for the first time in days, my voice didn't tremble. Later that afternoon, Ramirez called. It's over, she said. He's cooperating. He's already confessed to fabricating the source, taking payments, laundering through his LLC. You and your source are clear. I closed my eyes. And the Beacon? They're issuing a retraction. And an apology. They're naming you as the reporter. I laughed softly, not out of joy, but out of disbelief. They're giving me my byline back? They're giving you your story back, she said. But you've already moved past them. A week later, I sat at my tiny kitchen table, back in my apartment, the city humming below. My newsletter footnotes had exploded. 50,000 subscribers in days. People sending tips. People sending thanks. Omar was safe, in a new city under a new name. The kids in Maya's program were finally getting laptops paid for by a restitution fund carved out of the seized assets. I opened my email to find a message from Priya. Told you so. Now go win an award. I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. Then I opened a blank document. First line. They thought silence was safety. They forgot the noise truth makes when you let it breathe. Looking back now, it isn't the arrests I think about. Or the byline. Or the headlines. It's that night in my apartment. Bryce at the door, Omar on my couch, my hands shaking over the keyboard as the upload bar crawled forward. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of losing my career. And started being afraid of losing my courage. The story cost me more than sleep. It cost me faith in the walls I thought would hold. But it also gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. The freedom of telling the truth, even when it shakes. The freedom of knowing that, no matter how hard they try, they can't bury you if you've already learned to dig. My name is Lydia Quinn. I'm an investigative journalist. And no one will ever steal my byline again.